Well, hello there and good day. Thank you so much for joining me at Dystopian Report, the place where we talk about the nightmare world we found ourselves living in. I'm your host, Jesse Pullman, and today is Saturday, January 3rd. It's about 1 p.m. EST as I make this video. Today we're covering some breaking news that you've no doubt already heard of, and that's the United States kidnapping of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and his family. As with any breaking news situation, the situation is fluid, and while it seems relatively simple on the surface, the deeper levels of this are chilling. So to recap, if I don't sneeze in the middle of this conversation, if I do, I apologize. In our year-end special, we mentioned that Venezuela was de facto surrounded by the U.S. military, and that the Trump regime was threatening regime change in Venezuela. And look, I was wrong about this situation, I freely admit it. I figured that any U.S. attack would have enough lead time for Maduro to evacuate the capital of Caracas and reach the nation's vast interior to prolong any conflict. I was wrong. Last night, the U.S. took out air defenses, flew helicopters right into Caracas, and straight up kidnapped the Venezuelan dictator and his family. This is a situation where we need to keep in mind a few things simultaneously. For example, let's start with the practice that regime change is bad. It just is. It isn't our job, and it isn't ever done with the oppressed people's best interests in mind. We've seen this throughout history. And yes, Maduro was an unjust and almost certainly legitimately positioned dictator. He was a bad guy. He wasn't a good guy. We're not like sitting here saying, oh, yay, Maduro. No, boo Maduro. But also, the United States Congress is supposed to make decisions about who we go to war with. And during today's press conference, Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio both made clear they did not inform Congress about this whatsoever. In fact, Trump even suggested they would have leaked it. These are impeachable crimes, and they should be impeached for that. So be on the phone with your representatives and senators today. More on that later. Also, even if Congress had been consulted and agreed to this, that wouldn't make this a justified, let alone rational goal. Trump repeatedly, ad nauseum in fact, talked about how we would pay for it all with oil revenues. Talked about the oil, the resources in the ground. It's going to come out of the ground. There's going to be subsidies. If that sounds familiar, it's because we heard similar stories about the invasion of Iraq. Remember when that would pay for itself? Even if Congress was aboard, I ask again, since when has it been America's job to go in and overthrow governments we don't like? I mean, I know we've done it, historically speaking. I mean, you can go back to the 1950s in Iran for that one, and the banana republics. I mean, we have a history of it. But when has it really been our job, like from a moral standpoint? When have you ever done it for good reasons? What message did this send to our allies, some of whom we talk badly about now, like Denmark with Greenland? What message does that send to other oppressors who might choose to point at us when they commit atrocities of their own? If your answer is that the ultimate outcome will be better for the Venezuelan people, I again point you to Iraq. When Saddam Hussein was overthrown, the people rallied together to tear statues of him down. There was an infamous moment known as Mission Accomplished. And then what happened? Sectarian violence tore the country apart, and the Islamic State emerged as a global power. It didn't happen overnight, but rather over the span of a decade and then some. And if you're wondering what thought Trump has given to the aftermath of this situation today, at his press conference, he was asked if Venezuelan opposition bigwig Maria Corina Machado was going to be involved in the new government. And he said she hadn't even been consulted. So much for involving the people of Venezuela in their own future, right? Also, in various press events since the attack on Caracas, Trump has talked about both Mexico and Cuba as needing some sort of action as well. Just in case you thought he was stopping with Venezuela, he isn't. This isn't about the Venezuelan people. This isn't about what's best for them. This is about oil, because that's what he said. He's not hiding it. At least with Iraq, we built a coalition of allies, and we claimed it was for the people and for weapons of mass destruction. We're not doing that this time. How's Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries handling this? Well, he put out a press release that is pitiable at best, where he began by pointing out that Maduro was a criminal, which I know we kind of pointed out he was a criminal, but we didn't make it a whole paragraph of like, well, he was such a bad guy, you know. We just said we don't like him. So Jeffries doesn't seem to be against this. He complained toothlessly that Congress declares war, which, I mean, you know, it's supposed to, but that only happens if you enforce things through Congress. And he demanded with Congress being briefed, he demanded that Congress get briefed, but he didn't demand impeachment or anything, because that would be consequences. And we can't have those. So that tells you what the resistance to the Trump regime is apparently planning on doing. Nothing meaningful. And yeah, that's basically it. You're caught up to what you might have been asleep for. Like I said, this is a fluid situation. Things are changing. What we know is going to change. Who is in charge in Venezuela? I couldn't tell you right now. I don't think anyone could. That's probably a bad sign. I know Machado is trying to exert her influence there to try to form a united opposition front against what's left of the government, but like, I don't even know what's left of the government because we don't know who all has been killed in the initial airstrikes. I think their Secretary of Defense, or their equivalent of the Secretary of Defense, is dead. They blew his house up, I heard, but that could just be misinformation. I don't know. So we don't know who is in Venezuela running the show right now. It could be Venezuela's vice president, for all I know. Could be, well, Trump has said that we're going to run Venezuela. The United States is going to run it. So, yeah. Venezuelan people's best interest indeed. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. If you found this video helpful, please do hit the like, share, subscribe, friend, follow, or whatever buttons. It really help the channel grow. It lets me know what you're watching so I can keep making more of it. And I really appreciate it from everyone on my heart. Yeah. As always on this channel, pieces.